You seem to still be up there somewhere.
Maybe I am. There are flying saucers.
Supposing they're Martians or something in there.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm atleast, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. I got a lot done, which was nice. The air quality here has been god-awful, thanks to Canadian wildfires. So I haven't been going outside like a ton. You know, I'm not like a shut-in, but, you know, I would like to be getting out and doing sort of active stuff more than I have been, mostly because of that. But it has given me an opportunity to get a lot of things done. I've pretty much got the outline for my next book done, and that's really going to focus on sort of high strangeness and the connections between various paranormal phenomena. So that should be interesting. And so I've really been like digging into that. I mean, this is a good, anytime I get stuck inside, whether it be like wintertime or fucking Canadian wildfire season or whatever, that's a good opportunity for me to do research and to sort of get everything together for whatever project that I want to work on. And that's, you know, that's largely what I've been doing this like over the past weekend because of that. I did get out and I did run some Daggerheart for everybody who is just waiting with bated breath to hear about whatever nerd thing I've been up to. I've started a weekly Daggerheart campaign, so that's super fun. Anybody who likes fantasy role-playing games should definitely check that out. If you can find it, it kind of sold out everywhere, and I don't know if it's available, but check the Darrington Press website and see if you can find it on there, because it's definitely worth buying. But I don't know. I think that's probably everything. I always feel like I'm forgetting something. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm not. If I am, it couldn't have been that exciting. So I don't know. How was your weekend?
Pretty good. I really don't talk about this aspect of my life a lot, but I've been working a lot, too much, more than a human being should have to work. And, you know, that's just, it's fucking with my vibe, you know, not into that. It's, you know, not great. You know, the thing about it is that when you work a lot, you know, it's always so fucking miserable. I mean, you know, you're like, oh God, why am I doing this? Especially because it's all shit that I signed up for. But then you get paid. But God, it takes so long for that reward to come. You know what I mean? Like, I should get showered with compliments while I'm working, and, you know, a pizza party at least. You know, something to stave off the paycheck, because it's going to be a while before I feel it. So.
Sure.
No, I've been doing that a lot. And then I went to the fair this weekend, and man, I love the fair. You know, that's my jam. Who doesn't like a fair? We actually went on, which was unfortunately the last day of the fair, because all it does right now is rain here. So we went on the only nice day. And you know, most of the animals were gone, and I was kind of sad about that. But I did see a dog show, so that's was super, super important to watch the dog show at the county fair. You know, I didn't realize, you know, somebody who's grown up in Ohio, and Tobias, I think that you can probably relate to this being a Midwesterner. You know, fairs aren't like, not everybody has the fair. Like, people have festivals and, you know, things like that. But, you know, the fair is like a Midwestern thing. And it took a long time. It is. Yeah.
Other states don't have like state fairs?
I mean, other states do, but you know, not like, no, they don't have like state fairs. No. Well,
What?
we have like county fairs too, and so they probably have a state fair. I don't think they have county fairs, because like,
which one were you at? County fair?
I went to the county. Yeah, I went to the county fair.
Okay.
You know, but no, not everybody does. Not everybody does. Like I said, they have festivals and things, but not quite. You know, the whole point of the fair is, you know, centered around
livestock.
Livestock, and
basically
we're kind of known for that in the Midwest, you know, so that's like our thing.
It's true.
But
we're good salt of the earth people here.
It's it's an interesting concept to people outside of the Midwest. They're like, what? You take your livestock to be shown and auctioned off at places? And it's like, yeah, that's
Yeah. What did your 4-H kids do? I don't like. What
right.
do you mean you don't have county fairs?
And they're like 4-H. What is that? Like a satanic group for hell? Is that what that means?
I wish that'd be way cooler.
So yeah, there's areas in the country that have no clue what the fair is. So anyway,
Yeah.
it was cool. We did not just to answer Nate's question, there were no pig races. At least not the day that I went. So it was sad. But like I said, dog show. So made up for it.
Okay. Very
That was my
good.
weekend. That's what I did.
Everybody loves a good pig race, but if you can't have that, at least you got a dog show.
At least you get a dog show. Yeah, I want to start off by, of course, doing my weekly shout out that I've been doing here. I didn't do a weekly shout out last week because, well, our weekly shout out was the guest that we had on the show, right? It seemed a little
Yeah, we had a lot going on.
redundant. But I'm going to shout out somebody that doesn't need the help at all. But if you don't already check out this YouTube channel, you should. The Lore Lodge. The Lore
Okay.
Lodge just did another. So they mainly focus on missing 411 stuff, mysterious missing people. But they just did a new video really aimed right towards David Pilates, which, of course we did on this show. So if you don't believe us and our opinion about, that guy, go check out the Lore Lodge. They do their fucking homework. More than we did on the topic, more than I personally will ever do on the topic, because I don't feel like I need to, because we all kind of know the answer. But they do a lot of other stuff, getting to the bottom of things. And if you're into the truth, the facts, then you'll like the Lore Lodge. So check that out. And
Okay.
yeah, that's my shout out for the week. What about oh, you know what we also did, Tobias? We had our Patreon meeting.
We did.
We did. And you know what? It was just me and Tobias. You guys didn't show up. Look, I will get paid to hang out with Tobias. Like, that's totally fine. Like, it's not a problem. But like, y'all are giving us
We would
your
do
money.
that anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, we would do it for free. But y'all are giving us your money. Like, get your fucking money's worth. Like, what are you doing? Like, you got to come. The last Thursday of the month is our Patreon hangout nights. And if you don't show up, it'll just be me and Tobias hanging out. At minimum, but if you do, I mean, that's what it's there for, y'all. You're allowed to come hang out with us. We want you to.
I mean, no pressure either way, but yeah, it's your thing. You paid for it, so you might as well if you feel like it. Otherwise, we'll sit around and talk about, I don't know, fucking Trainwreck or whatever other documentaries we've seen recently. That's another thing I did. I watched the Storm Area 51 Trainwreck documentary.
I didn't get to yet. Ugh.
It was all right. I think you'll like it. I think that it will be more impactful to you because you are a part of this field and and the industry surrounding it. So you're going to recognize a lot of the fallibility, I think, that is endemic to the UFO field and, again, the industry surrounding it. And that's all I'll say about it until you actually watch it, and then we can talk about it.
Yeah, I have a story about it, so I gotta watch it. And then then we'll talk about it. So that'll be good. But anyway, the point is, come join our Patreon, come join our monthly meetups, or don't. At least get your tarot read. I did that for our patrons. They all got their August readings this month. People are very pleased with them. 2 months in a row. 2 months in a row. People are pleased with them. Imagine that. Whether you believe in the cards or not, it doesn't matter. I will do it for you anyway. Patreon.com/WednesdaysTalk. So there you go. Let's get into some news.
Sure.
Do we want to okay, so my news is it's really dark and really disturbing. And Tobias's news is a lot lighter and hilarious. What do we want to do first? How do we want to start off?
Oh boy, should we start dark and then go with the levity, or will whatever comedic value of my story only be overshadowed by the terribleness of the whatever you're going to share? Nate, okay, so our producer Nate is saying heavy first. Okay, because I can't decide, I'm gonna go with what he said. So yeah, you go.
That's Nate, that's what you're here for, right? To produce. All right. So again, trigger warning. I mean, really, for real, shit's gonna get real dark. And here we go. The potentially the first ever snuff film has surfaced on the internet.
What?
Yep, potentially the first ever snuff film. If you don't know what a snuff film is, I'm going to tell you real quick so that we have another chance to come back here in a couple of minutes. A snuff film is when somebody is killed on camera for profit. Not somebody that's killed on camera and then it leaks out onto the internet. There's plenty of that. Somebody that is
Yeah.
killed on camera specifically to be distributed for profit.
Okay.
So a video, not just a video, but a video and a series of pictures started circulating around this app, Telegram. Tobias, I don't know if you're familiar much with Telegram.
I've
But
heard of it.
yeah, I mean, it's just another social media, but like to be quite honest with you, if you're listening to, right now, don't ever go on Telegram. There's so much shit that you can get in trouble just for being on there for. Don't do it. It's
Right.
bad.
I don't have a Telegram
No.
account. I'm not looking
No.
to get one.
No, thank you. So there was a group chat discovered where a gentleman was advertising a total of 11 videos and over 90 images of a particular event that went place. I am going to go ahead and I'm not going to get into crazy detail about it, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you what the video is. The video is a young man who is laying down on the ground and he's jerking off. And while he's jerking off, there's another man standing above him with like a big meat cleaver. And while that's happening, eventually the man jerking off kind of gives meat cleaver guy the signal. And the guy chops into his neck and eventually chops his head off and kills him and he dies. And so and then also there's all these pictures. It doesn't just chop his head off. I'm not going to tell you the rest. You know what? I'm not going to tell you the rest. It's pretty fucking bad. There's other stuff that goes with it. But the pictures that follow it are, also of this guy being dismembered, this guy being cooked into dishes and potentially cannibalized. We don't know if he was or wasn't. But this is kind of the talk of the town if you're in, it's going to say weird, it's going to sound weird, but into gore. Because people want to know what the actual fuck, like where did this video come from? How do we get the authorities involved? Like, to what degree do we get the authorities involved? Because the person who was killed seemed to have consented to being killed, in this way. What does that mean? What does that look like? And so the internet is going fucking wild. And man, let me tell you, the internet, speaking of Netflix documentaries, if you guys ever watch Don't Fuck with Cats, like, like the internet doesn't fuck around with this stuff. Like they get to the bottom of it. And kind of what they're finding out is that this was probably shot sometime in June, roughly. And they believe they found the Facebook accounts of the victim dating back to 2020, talking about this fetish of not just being killed, but also being beheaded specifically. And they think that it's his account. The video and picture package is selling for about $600 USD. Not everything has been leaked on the internet, but just the base video itself and a couple pictures have. But again, 11 videos over 90 images, it's a lot. And because it popped up in this group, people wonder if the guy selling it, is he the killer? Is this going to be a regular thing? What does that look like? They think that maybe it was shot somewhere in Vietnam. So I don't know. It's an ongoing investigation. Nobody has been explicitly identified yet. And then, of course, the laws in Vietnam might be a little bit weird when it comes to some type of conviction here, because,
right.
Again, was it consensual? Because it sure seems like it was. I didn't watch it. I just read a really good description of it.
Sure. I'm not going to seek it out. I, like many people, have been watching folks die on the internet for like 25 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not compelled to see any more of that, frankly. Right. So I'm definitely not going to look it up. It isn't surprising to me that something like that could exist, though, because being killed and cannibalized is a known fetish. And I'm not going to say it's like super popular. It's not like fucking women's feet or something, but it is popular enough that people have heard of it. Like
Yeah.
it is a thing. So I don't know. I recognize that this is dark. It's honestly, this says more about me than anything else. It's not nearly as dark as what I had imagined when you were like, "Oh shit, everybody watch out. This is going to get real dark." And okay, yeah, I get it, but like I thought it would be worse if I could be totally honest.
Well, and I agree with that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, I mean, it's not like I wouldn't." I'm not gonna say it's not like I wouldn't watch it. I mean, I could watch it if I wanted to, and that just shows you the type of resources that I have at my disposal.
Well, of course.
um very easily. I'm just not interested. It's not, doesn't pique my I've seen enough of it, like same as you.
Yeah,
I don't feel the
I'm
need
good.
to. But yeah, it's dark. The fact that it's potentially a snuff film is more kind of what I'm focused on, because the idea of a snuff film has been around um before the internet has. I mean, it's
Oh
been around
yeah,
for a long time, and until now it's always been a rumor, right?
it's
That's
just
never
urban
been
legend. Yeah,
right. And so it potentially coming true is kind of more my fascination rather than the gore itself. I mean, it's fucked up, and
right.
I think it is fascinating to die that way. I agree with you, Tobias, not to make light of the situation, but like, what if like you try it or whatever, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to be into this, and then you're totally not into it. You only get to do it. Or what if it's the best thing you've ever felt ever, and you will never get to experience it again because, well, now you're dead. I mean,
I mean that honestly, when you say it that way, it's probably worth it. But I think the risk there, of course, is that it's not going to be what you want. And at that point it's just too fucking late. It's
relate, yeah,
like how the few people who have survived, say like jumping off the Golden Gate, like the Golden Gate Bridge or something,
yeah,
they pretty much universally will describe this immediate regret as soon as they jump. They're like,
right,
all of a sudden all of the problems that led them to jump seem very fucking solvable, and they can they think life is worth living, and it's too late.
yeah,
And so I would expect that kind of feeling, probably. Like, honestly, if this is your fetish, and look, I don't know who listens to our podcast, so I'm going to apologize in advance for my crass language. But frankly, if this is a thing you're considering, go fucking jerk off and then think about it again and see if it's
yes,
really worth it.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just like, I've had a lot of really great orgasms, but I've never had one that was worth dying over.
No, absolutely not.
I never. That thought has never crossed my mind. Like, this is it. This is the peak. I can die now. Like, never.
Right.
Maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know.
Maybe.
We're all just doing it. It's just these people, they know. Like, they've got the secret. Yeah, I mean, it is, like I said, endlessly fascinating in that regard. You're right. There are people that have that type of fetish. And not, most of them don't act on it because they have that common sense of, well, I can only do it once, so I better make it count. I better be ready. And
Please don't ever act on that. If
just don't. Yeah.
anybody has that kind of urge, like, I mean, obviously you're not going to listen to me, but if for some reason you decide to, get some help. Seriously, like, talk to somebody. Like, that shit isn't okay. You
I
shouldn't
think
feel like, you want to die for any reason, sexual or not.
I think that the only exception would be if you are terminally ill and you're at the point of going downhill. Well, then, why not?
Oh, sure.
Do what you got to do.
Yeah,
But
that's different. I
you got to
mean,
have both things at
euthanasia.
once.
Yeah, we're not talking about euthanasia here.
Right.
That's a whole different. It's an entirely different situation, and I agree with you. Why should like, I love the fact that I can give that piece to, say, like, my dog or cat or
Sure.
or whatever. But why is it that we live in a society where I can do that for my dog, but I couldn't do that? But my wife couldn't do that for me.
Right.
Like, that's insane.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. That's a whole that's a whole topic for another day. But
Right.
but no,
We're
exactly.
way off track.
And we don't know, we don't know if the person in the video, maybe he was terminally ill. We have no idea. We don't
Maybe.
know who he is yet. And so that's kind of the really disturbing part. It's not just the contents of the video. It's that like we've not been able to identify the killer or the victim here. Like we don't know who they
Right.
are, and this is just happening in a corner of the fucking world, and you still have to go to work tomorrow.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
I agree. The mystery to it, I think, is what makes it so compelling.
yeah,
Because people get killed all the time. And yes, of course it's fucking sad. I get that. You
oh
know,
yeah,
I've never seen a terrible video on the internet where I didn't think to myself, that poor fucking person, you know?
right. You never
Uh,
like this is great. You're always like, why did I
no.
watch that
Yeah,
immediately after?
like this is terrible. That poor fucking person. Like that's so sad. But anyway, yeah, it's the mystery I think that makes it so compelling because people die all the time,
Mhm.
and that's not even news. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's just not. But yeah, the fact that there could be so much more to this, like the potential layers to this, I think
yeah.
is what would capture someone's imagination, like keep their interest. So I don't know. I hope we find out, not just for the sake of our curiosity, but because if a crime has been committed, then people deserve to be
Yeah.
punished for it, So,
Absolutely right. Is this a ring that's going on? Does this person have the potential for it to happen again? Because $600 ain't a lot for a human life. I mean, shit, that guy is undercharging people.
well, if you multiply that by like a million, though, like you get a
That's
million
great.
people to pay $600, you'd be
That's not
set.
too bad. That's not too bad. Do you think a million people would purchase those videos and pictures?
Probably not. But even if you got 1,000 people to pay
True.
$600, I mean, that's $600,000.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's change your fucking life money for sure.
That's true. Maybe they never have to do it again. Especially if they're in a less fortunate country. That's true. And that was like another thing too. People were speculating that maybe the victim did it because maybe his family was promised money if he did do it. And it's tough because in a country like that, you're put into such a hard position where you could potentially do that for like your family. It just opens up your eyes to a lot of
Maybe.
things, like I said, that you don't think about on a regular basis. And yeah,
Right.
I agree. The mystery is more compelling. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. We'll see if anything ever comes of it. But you know what? A lot of the other gore videos, most of the time we don't find a backstory or anything. It's
Yep.
just like, here, there's this person getting their face skinned off alive, and it's like, oh, that's
Oh,
fucking terrible.
horrible. Yeah. Look at that. Look at that pit bull just devour that man's
Oh,
genitals. What an
God.
awful thing for a human being to see. And then obviously, what a terrible
Yeah,
thing for someone to experience.
I'll never forget that one. That's a hard one.
Yeah. That was the worst thing I've ever seen.
People say he was a pedophile, but we don't know that. I think people just say that to feel better about what they just saw.
Probably.
And
Even
that's
if he
fine.
was a pedophile, like that's not better, like pedophiles should be in prison or getting like mental health, you know, services, but nobody should be getting eaten by a fucking pit bull or
Alive. Yeah.
decapitated, or
Yeah.
anything. So
It's what's out there is wow. Just be careful what you guys search for. That's all I'm saying. And never, ever, ever, under any circumstances whatsoever, I don't care how curious you are after listening to this, fucking do not go on Telegram. Don't do it. Don't do it.
no, not gonna.
Yeah, don't do that. So anyway, on to let's get on to the lighthearted news.
Sure. Well, this also involves death,
It
unfortunately.
does. Yeah, it does.
So I hope everybody's sitting down, buckle up, because Bigfoot is dead. I know, I'm struggling to hold back tears too, but I received this email from a Charles Stewart declaring that he was writing to me to report that he's located the remains of Bigfoot in the Adirondack Mountains. Said the body was in a state of decomposition when his team found it, and they carted it out of the forest and have made some quote unquote incredibly fascinating discoveries. So clearly, this is monumental news, and he was sharing this story with me prior to the exhibition being greenlit by the New York State Fair. So, as you do when you find a Bigfoot body, you take it home and put it in the freezer or whatever. and then you call the state fair and you go, look, guys, I got a story for you. Do you want to be the official venue of the unveiling of a Bigfoot body? And I guess the New York State Fair was really on board with that. So naturally intrigued, I wrote back to Charles, who henceforth insisted on being referred to as Snake, which is probably my favorite detail of the whole story. So, because like really wants to be known as Snake Stewart instead of Charles Stewart. But like, okay, Charles, in all fairness, why did you sign the email Charles if you wanted me to call you Snake? You could have just used your nickname. That's fine. You know, like I wouldn't have been like, are you sure your name is Snake? Are you sure you're not a Charles? You know, like, come on. Anyway, so I asked a bunch of questions because of course I did. So I don't think we have time to read through all of these questions. And anybody who's been listening to this show long enough knows that I do not publish shit like this to my website because, okay, I used to cover obvious hoaxes, and I kind of thought like it was my duty to share the truth about them and like let people know. But the reality of the situation actually is doing that only gives the hoaxer more attention.
Yeah.
And it's fine for me, I think, to kind of read it and joke about it online, or not online, on our podcast. But when I post it online, I try to do so objectively. And that really only serves to give attention to the people who don't deserve it. That is to say, the hoaxers. So I don't do that. So I'm not going to post this shit anywhere. I'm just going to talk about it on the show, and then we'll hopefully let it die a quiet death, or they'll bring a Bigfoot body to the New York State Fair, and we'll fucking do a part 2 to this. You know, whatever.
Egg on our face. I'll take it.
You never know. So like, okay, so I asked a bunch of questions. Like I wanted to know like who exactly was there. Basically got an entire paragraph of him not telling me who was there. Like I literally asked like who exactly was involved in this discovery, and this reads like it was written by AI. Like nothing at all to do with anybody who was there. There's a vague mention of like a small team of people that dude trusts, and that's it. So nobody's name. We know Charles Stewart's name, if that's even his real name. Maybe his real name is Snake. I don't know. That's what I heard. But
I'm surprised it wasn't Snake Jr., Uncle Robert,
right.
and my neighbor.
Yes. So like, yeah, I mean, so already it's off to a pretty bleak start here, you know, already being real cagey. So I asked, you know, how precise can you be in sharing where the body was found? And now this was a little better. So he said that the Bigfoot body was found deep in the Hadironda wilderness in the Adirondacks, which is a remote, rugged area that apparently Snake knows very well. I'm sorry, Charles knows very well. I got to call him Charles just to be a dick.
Call him Chuck.
Chuck.
Yeah.
Chuck. Anyway. But he won't give the exact location because then you just have people traipsing around in Bigfoot's backyard being a nuisance, which I get. Apparently that's only fine for certain people to do, but not for everybody. You know, I asked what led to the body's discovery. This is the best part. I will read this part. So literally my question was, what led to the body's discovery? And the answer was, honestly, it happened because I threw out the old playbook. For years, I did what everyone else does, setting up camera traps, blasting mating calls, all the stuff you see on TV. And it got me nowhere. Then it hit me. I was trying to find a creature that is incredibly smart and aware by being loud and clumsy. So I changed everything. I developed a method I call nesting. Nesting is in quotes. It's all about patience. Instead of crashing through the woods making a racket, I learned to be quiet, to blend in, to become part of the forest. It was a slow, quiet process, but it's what allowed me to finally get close enough to make the find of a lifetime. It wasn't luck. It was a completely new approach. Like, how much do you want to bet that this dude is going to try to bottle and sell this approach in some form. Like this was, it just read so much as like a hard sell on
Mm.
whatever this fucking approach was. And it again, it still reads like it's written by AI. Like he's just like the prompt was just like, make me sound like the douchiest cryptozoologist explaining their methodology.
Yeah, okay, number one, look, every serious cryptozoologist knows that you don't do the shit that they do on TV because, they've got like fucking 200 seasons of finding Bigfoot and haven't found it yet. Like, everybody's aware of that.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
that's
TV.
fucking, right. And that's like, and just period. As a naturalist, like, that's like experiencing animals in the woods 101. Like, have you ever been fucking deer hunting? You ever heard of it?
Right. So yeah, no, I agree. And okay, I asked a lot of questions. So I really did, because it's me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna take this seriously and ask a bunch of questions. And then if the responses are obvious bullshit, which of course they were, then I'll know that this is fucking bullshit. But if they, how stupid would I feel if I had an opportunity to ask these questions and like this person would have really given up the goods, but I was just like, oh well, no,
Blow 'em
I'm
off,
too
sure.
good. I'm too
Yeah.
good to ask questions. I don't want to be that guy. I'm not too good for anything. Everybody knows that. But anyway, so I asked if you could establish a cause or time of death. And this is another interesting part. He says that's one of the most amazing things about this is that the Bigfoot was almost perfectly preserved. They
Mm.
couldn't find any signs of injury, and they think that the specimen must have died of natural causes. So
Oh.
I asked what has already been done to examine the body, and they said that they've learned a ton about it, collecting tissue and even scat samples. And apparently that's been examined. They got DNA. Let's see. So apparently they found a specialized lab to map his entire genetic blueprint. So that's exciting. And then when they compared it to their own and our ancient relatives like the Neanderthals, it was undeniable. We could see exactly where he fits in our own family tree, a distinct branch that had been missing until now. So they're kind of pushing the missing link aspect, which I honestly thought was done like a couple decades ago, but all right,
Yeah.
whatever. We're still doing
That's
that, I guess.
that's old news.
Right? And so I asked, like, what they're currently doing and just more bullshit like, oh, we're working around the clock to get this ready for the world to see. Like, what does that mean? Like, what specifically are you doing? What their main focus right now is preparing their first public showing at the New York State Fair. So that's going to be a big deal. Let's see, asked about their plans moving forward, more bullshit about the state fair. When and how, okay, where and how is the body being stored? So they can't give up an address. That's fine. They said that they have them in a private, secure, climate controlled location with 24/7 security. That's exciting. And are meticulously controlling the environment to make sure he's preserved perfectly. Okay, sure. Okay. And then let's see. This was a good one. Which credible scientific institutions have you contacted about this discovery? With exactly whom did you speak? Now, I didn't expect an answer to this, and so I wasn't disappointed because I didn't get a fucking answer to this. Instead, they just went on like, "Oh man, I don't know. Like we reached out to so many people, and they were just all like, dude." And that was basically the entire answer. They're like, "Oh, we reached out to all these universities, and they just ignored us." And that's when I knew this was horseshit, because if you were to reach out to a university and be like, hey, can I send you samples, like tissue samples of what I think is an undiscovered animal? They'd be like, yeah, of course. Fuck yeah. Like let us see your evidence. So that for sure did not fucking happen. Yeah. And so then my next question was, how did they react to your claims? More of the same, of them just being like, no, they made fun of us. And then they gave me a wedgie and they stole my lunch money and they said my mom was fat. And then Abraham Lincoln told them to knock it off and Albert Einstein gave me $20. Yeah, it's just more of that shit. And then let's see, what evidence are you prepared to submit to them? Apparently, like they're saying, we would give everything we have to the universities. So I guess step up, universities. Credible scientists at a university. Go to the New York State Fair, and you can have any part of this Bigfoot body that you want, according to Charles. And then, how do you plan to proceed? Oh, okay, I'll go ahead and read this one too, because it's just, oh god, just ridiculous. All right, so I asked, how do you plan to proceed? This is my final question. Look, when the established experts slam the door in your face, you stop knocking. You build a new door. That's what this expedition is. We are taking our case directly to the court of public opinion. We believe that when people see the undeniable physical truth with their own eyes, they will demand that the scientific world finally gives this discovery the serious attention it deserves. Yeah.
I mean, good luck with that. It didn't work for the Fiji mermaid, didn't work for the Cardiff giant, didn't work for the Minnesota Iceman. I mean, my guy, come on. Come on.
Yup. That's pretty much it. So I don't know. Maybe Charles listens to the show. If you do, Charles, I'm not even mad because this is obviously fake. Like, it's fine. Have your fun. But you could have at least put a little bit more effort into the answers to the questions instead of like just make something up. Like, you're already making it all up. So like, you might as well have just made up some more details, rather than it being so obviously fake. But I don't know. So I'm going to say, like, I'm going to give this hoax like 4 out of 10. Like, and that's only because it has a picture, and the picture is pretty cool.
The picture is pretty cool. I mean, it's obviously fake, but it's pretty cool.
Obviously.
And well, I don't know, Tobias, because here's the one thing about it. There is one aspect of the Bigfoot in this photo that we know is 100% true when it comes to Bigfoot. We don't know a lot about Bigfoot, but if you look at it, exactly, you can't see his dick. So it must be so small that you can't see it.
Well, it's okay. It's really that it's got a sleeve, right? It's like Bigfoot has a weird dog dick. We've been over this. So it's like it's an innie until he gets excited, and then it like extends from the sheath. Apparently, this is a thing with primates. I think chimp dicks are like this. I don't know, some other primate species for sure. And so that part adds up. Like, that's why when I saw it initially, I was like, I got to ask more questions. I need to know if this is real or not, because the photograph on its own with no obvious genitalia confirms our hypothesis about Bigfoot's weird dog dick.
It's anatomically correct, so I got to give them that, because there's no titties, right? There's, so we know it's a guy. Female. So
they said it. They refer to him as a male over and over again.
Oh yeah, that's right. He's a guy. And this is the whole thing. Oh my gosh. Okay, well, let's see what happens. I was kind of gonna wait and share the story until after it presented at the New York State Fair, which starts August 20th. But why not? Let's get ahead of it, and let's wait and let's see what happens come the fair time. But I don't have high hopes on this one, y'all. It's something about it just seems weird. Not in a good weird, a bad weird.
Yep, I've never been less excited to be right about anything. So I would happily eat crow if this really was an actual Bigfoot body. But it's not, so I won't have to.
Yeah, it's not, but I'll give it to him. He's definitely sticking to the bit. All of his responses to people and things like that. I mean, he's trying, I guess, but he'll make a ton of money, off of this. I mean, honestly, but like, look, if I went to the fair and they were like, come see the Bigfoot body, $10 a ticket, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'd sign up for that. Knowing damn well it's fake, I'd still sign up for it. So
I just wonder if he can be sued because of the basically lying about this being an actual Bigfoot body. So if that's the case, dude is fucked.
Yeah,
and needs to just quit now.
Yeah. Well, the problem is like when you read his responses and stuff, and people are like calling him out and they're like, this is obviously fake. He doubles down and goes, no, this is absolutely real. The DNA was tested by Cornell University and blah, 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 blah. I mean, if he were
Why
just
did
like,
he tell me that?
what's that?
He didn't tell me Cornell
Oh,
University.
he tagged
He
him on
just
Instagram and said that they
that
they
son of
tested
a
the DNA.
bitch.
Yeah.
So his story is changing. Okay,
Yeah.
great.
And yeah, that's what he's saying. And it's like, if he were just like, look at my Bigfoot body, it's the fact that he's saying, look at my 100% real Bigfoot body backed by DNA evidence. Like, he's laying it
Right.
on too thick. And I think that, yeah, I think that if any of you people are close to that area and you can go to the New York State Fair and you see it, you should sue him and give me a cut of the money because I gave you the idea because you'd win.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Buy me a Diet Coke or something.
take Tobias out to breakfast. He loves breakfast.
I do love breakfast.
Yep.
Thank you for that.
You don't even have to talk to him. Just stare at each other, chomp your bacon,
Don't
and
talk to me when I'm eating. I'm trying to fucking eat,
go on about your day.
Yeah,
Um,
just be normal. Read a newspaper. Look at your phone while we eat.
like normal people.
Yes, thank you.
But yeah, I'm gonna watch. I'm interested, right? I'm gonna see what comes of it. Nothing. I know it'll be nothing, but I'm still gonna watch the shit show.
Sure.
But I love a good I love a good gaff. I like a good carnival trick. And again, this would be fun if it were just I showed up to the fair and this is some guy that showed up with a tent and a Bigfoot body. It's not though. He's like talking about it everywhere on social media and like really hyping it up, and it's like, you can't do that, dude.
Right. How much? Okay. How surprised would you be if prior to the state fair, the body mysteriously goes missing?
Oh, not at all. Not even close. Not even close. But I think it will be there. I mean, what's his name? Rick Dyer has the one Bigfoot body at he's got like that museum or store or something,
I don't
it's
know.
that you can go visit. I mean, we've seen shit like that before,
True.
I don't think it's going to be difficult. I think there will be a body there, but well, let me reiterate. I think there will be a prop there. And then I think if anybody ever calls him on it, it's going to be the Minnesota Iceman excuse. Somebody must have switched out the body. So mysterious.
Ugh, yeah, could be. I could see that.
Same shit, different millennia. This has been going on
Right.
forever. So, anyway, like I said, it'll be fun to kind of see what happens, but it's hilarious. It's a good time. What do you guys think about the Bigfoot body? Have you seen it yet? It's something else, but it does come with a picture, and this thing is covered in fucking. It's like right in the middle of a poison ivy patch. So that's dedication. They had to place it, I mean,
That's true.
and take it out of there. So
Maybe they're just not very outdoorsy. Like they just fucked up. That's what I'm going with.
well, no, not if he thought that the way to attract animals in the woods is to fucking go out in the middle of the woods and make a bunch of noise and scream for them. Like, and it's some
Right.
fucking genius move to go out there and be quiet. Like,
Yeah, exactly. I'm guessing that this might be a city person who just didn't know.
yeah,
They just didn't know any better.
yeah. And now that he's found Bigfoot, he's upgraded himself from Charles to Snake. So
That's right. Badass. He needs an eye patch.
it's just the irony of him being called Snake and him selling snake oil. Anyway, he did that on purpose. He thought he was
Yeah.
clever with that. Mm-mm.
Right. Like, I'm going to be a badass outdoorsy guy. You can call me Night Dragon or whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Snake.
Call me Bear.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a good one. On to other fun stuff. Let's talk about some aliens, huh?
Sure.
Let's
On
get
to our
on
main
to
attraction.
our main attraction. Yeah, let's do the thing. So I definitely want to talk. This case to me does not get talked about nearly enough, and I feel like that shows. Because this isn't one of those like heavy hitter cases, although it started off to be that way, a classic tale in ufology, and then just kind of died off over time because of the terrible way that it was handled. It seems at the
Right.
during the investigation. But this is a very intriguing case, and if you Google it, you really don't find a lot about it. You find kind of other people that might do little hit pieces here and there, but there really isn't dedicated, like a dedicated case file, except for, I guess that came out later, but even then you kind of question it. But the good news about it is that most of the resources for it that you will find come straight from the horse's mouth, that horse being Kelly. Is it Cahill? Is that how we say it?
I would say Cahill, but
Yeah.
I guess I don't really know.
I mean, I doubt it's Cahill or Cahill. I'm going to call her Cahill.
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 Yeah,
Kelly
I think
Cahill.
Cahill's right.
Cahill's right. So, you can find a lot about her talking about it directly. But yeah, before this episode, Tobias, what was your familiarity with the Kelly Cahill abduction?
Well, great question. I think my great question is though this isn't how we start every single one of these. My my introduction to this case actually came in 2000, and I'm looking right now, 2005. So I bought Hair of the Alien, DNA and Other Forensic Evidence of Alien Abduction, written by Bill Chalker, who is going to be very important to this case, of course. And in that book, he talks about the Cahill abduction experience, and so that was my introduction to it. Even though it had happened a decade earlier, I don't think it really caught on. I mean, I was a kid, when this happened, so of course I wasn't exposed to it. But it didn't catch on in the States like, I don't know, Roswell or Betty and Barney Hill or any of that other stuff. And so yeah, this was the first I had heard of it.
Yeah, my familiarity is not that old. I like how you're like, oh, I know about it in 2005. I remember the day it was sunny. Um,
I looked up. No, the reason I know it was 2005 is because I bought this book kind of when it came out, and I was looking up when it was published, and it was published in 2005. Because I have the book out in front of me, of course.
I just thought it was just so influential to you that you just committed it to memory.
Right. It was a Wednesday, unusually warm. I remember. Yeah.
I saw a bird in the distance. Yeah, and a butterfly. Yeah, this is a pretty newish one for me. But I was surprised because the more and more I get into it, I don't really find a lot of cases that I haven't heard of that weren't significant, right? That wouldn't be impactful to ufology. And this is one of those cases that I believe is impactful to ufology. So we'll kind of get right into it. Why don't we?
Sure.
Pulling up my notes here. So, between the hours of August 7th and August 8th of 1993, Kelly Cahill and her husband, initially on the 7th, they were driving to a friend's house when they spotted some strange orange lights in the sky. And we've all heard about the orange lights. That's nothing new to us. They kind of not really watched these lights for a bit, but they kind of just assumed, oh, it must be something military related, and went on about their business, went to their friend's house. But when they were driving back home, things got even weirder. They spotted the lights once again. This time around, they had seen the lights at one point kind of up in the sky, and then as they continued on their drive, they actually caught the lights more on the ground. And what they thought had been, even potentially their own individual lighting, as they got closer and closer to this airship, they could actually make out that these weren't in fact lights necessarily. These were actually windows into what they describe as a giant airship. Kelly goes on to describe it. She says it was about 2 to 3 stories tall and an Olympic swimming pool wide. So pretty significant. She does refer to it as like a blimp at one point, but she's got images of it. So she's written a book about her experiences, and you can find these pictures online. The book, good luck finding it. It's very expensive, and out of print. But she drew pictures of it. I don't think it looks like a blimp to me, but it does look very. It just doesn't look like anything I've ever seen before, personally.
Okay.
Kind of looks like, actually, when I think about it, it kind of looks like the fucking Gravitron thing at the fair.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know?
I used to love the Gravitron. That was the best.
Yeah, except more
You
of
can
a
abduct me onto a Gravitron anytime.
more of a flatter bottom, bigger, but it's more like a Gravitron. So there are kind of two events, kind of two different stories to this case, and we'll get in more into why later on. So I'm going to tell basically the first initial what happened. So they see this craft and they decide to go ahead and approach it, stop on the side of the road and figure out what is going on. And as they pull up, they do notice two other vehicles there as well. However, they are hit with a blinding bright lights, and Kelly then does, and I guess her husband hasn't really said much, doesn't remember anything until they remember being back into their car up the road a ways. So
Okay.
that's the initial. Now, Tobias, before the show, you were kind of talking about this book, which we'll get into kind of,
Right.
Bill Chalker and who he is here in a little while. But does it tell that version of events, or does it tell her kind of, I keep saying recovered
Initially,
version, but
right. So initially, all right. So Chalker uses, let's see, he was, and I guess just a quick introduction. He was the like the first ufologist to cover this experience after it happened, and this is based on an interview that Kelly gave to Rob Tilley on March 21st, 1994.
okay.
So, and apparently it is consistent with what she then told John Auchettle of Phenomena Research Australia, who are also going to be very important to this story. Okay. And so in that, like, in that testimony, basically what she says is it matches what you said, where they were going over to one of her girlfriend's houses because it was her daughter's birthday. It was like they got there, whatever, they played bingo or something, and then they came back, and she was sure that they left that house before midnight, but they didn't end up getting home until 2:30 a.m. So on the way out there, she does report seeing what you described, those unusual lights and everything. But other than those unusual lights on the way out, the initial report is that they were headed back, and they didn't get home until 2:30 in the morning. Now, this testimony goes on to talk about how when they were driving back down the road, like on their way home, they saw this object like over the road, and then and then everything that you described. But what is unclear, and kind of the way that it's set up, is that it seems like the only thing that they remembered initially was seeing the stuff on the way out to their friend's house, and then Kelly thinking that they had experienced missing time that night, and then everything else was remembered later. That's how this testimony is kind of set up.
Okay.
I don't know if that jives with everything that you saw.
Sure. So, well, and I'm going to kind of get into the weirder stuff about what happened immediately after, and then we'll kind of pick up the story a little bit more as it goes on. So they arrive home. they realized that they had lost about an hour of time. Kelly had a strange triangle shape located directly underneath her belly button. She described it as looking like a burn. However, she does go into great detail about how it ended up healing up over the next couple of weeks. And then she said maybe it was more like a scar just because of the way that it healed, but eventually it had completely disappeared. There's no picture of this mark underneath her belly button. Um, she says that she didn't really, definitely didn't follow any of this stuff. Never really had the thought to even take a picture of it. Never crossed her mind. And in '93, I think that checks out.
Yeah.
She also began experiencing severe abdominal pain and was menstruating outside of her cycle. As a matter of fact, she had menstruated for 3.5 weeks straight before she was eventually hospitalized for this bout of menstruation. And they really couldn't figure out a cause for it. The doctors really had no real idea. They ended up treating her with a pretty heavy dose of antibiotics, which did kind of clear it up. They just chalked it up to maybe some type of infection. Which I will say, as a woman, these things happen. I mean, they do. Sometimes you can bleed for weeks on end, and it's not good. And you should seek help. But as women, we also tend to just be like, it'll go away on its own. As weird as that sounds, we're really, not too excited to go to the doctor and have them play with our bits. So,
Okay, that's fair.
I mean, we really will do almost everything to avoid that appointment. It's just not great. But she then also started experiencing some really severe migraines. And she had never had migraines like this before. And she would, go to the doctor and be like, hey, I've got these migraines. What's going on? They would do scans on her and everything was normal. And, she'd do the CT scans and, they're just like, here, take some meds. In the interview so I watched this interview with her where she talks for about an hour about her experiences. She kind of jokes in the interview just about how, because the person interviewing her is asking some really good questions. She's like, okay, so you had this mystery bleeding. What was the cause? What was the diagnosis? And she's like, well, there really wasn't one. And she's like, okay, so you had these migraines. What was the diagnosis? And she was like, well, there really wasn't one. She said, it was really difficult because while I'm getting treatment at the time and kind of grappling with something strange has happened to me, it's not like I'm willing to tell the doctors, hey, I had this UFO encounter and this might be the cause. And so, she says maybe they just really didn't know what to look for because she was not sharing, things that are probably important to something like that. And that's fair.
Sure.
So after all this initial stuff tends to happen, Kelly starts to, I keep calling them recovered memories, and recovered implies that she went through some type of regression therapy, and that's not
Right.
really the case with Kelly. She just kind
True.
of had memories come back to her through certain events, through dreams, and it actually reminds me a lot of Betty Hill before
Yeah.
she had regression therapy.
But yeah, because as far as I know, Kelly only had one session of hypnosis, and it, according to Chalker, it didn't reveal anything of significance whatsoever. She barely even like went under. A lot of people are like that. Actually, I'm like that. Like it's very difficult for me to be hypnotized.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she tried it once, was like, this is fucking bogus. It's not doing anything. And then that was it. And like you said, everything after that were sort of recollections triggered by events in her life, which is far more compelling to me.
Yes. Right. And it is really, really fascinating. I'm gonna try to explain all this in a really bite-sized way. But I'll say up front, let me tell you, watching her talk about this, she's very likable. I mean, she's really a fascinating person. She's easy to listen to, and also she's pretty hardcore about I would have never in a million years believed anything like this. Had no idea there were people that studied UFOs. Had no clue that there was other people this could have happened to. Did not buy into any of this stuff. Until it happened to her. I definitely recommend checking that out sometime if you got an hour to spill. But if but first spill your hour here, and we'll continue on with the story. So, as she continues forward and into her life, and she kind of starts slowly remembering things. Eventually, this is what she would come to remember, and basically this is what she would write about in her book as far as what she could remember. So she remembers them stopping the car. She remembers seeing the two other cars stopped as well. In this part, this is where she more so goes on to describe in better detail what that craft looked like was during kind of the second telling of the story. And she describes at first feeling really fascinated, really curious, right? What's going on? What is this? It's a once in a lifetime event. And then pretty quickly, that fascination turns into like clear and obvious terror. Before anything even happens, she is overwhelmed by this sense of terror. So, and then she describes this is weird because like I get what she's saying. She describes kind of a battle that she has internally with her thoughts where she's trying to kind of keep her thoughts together, but she's losing control of them. And, potentially because of the panic that's taking over, right? She's trying to keep a level head, and so she's not trying to freak out. But she is experiencing something that is obviously otherworldly, right? So that's horrifying. But this is a feeling that's often described with a lot of abductees. Pascagoula is another, a very famous one like that, where they are kind of forced to remain calm, which is interesting. So it's Kelly's like horrified feelings that are wanting to take over, but it's like something is attempting to force her to remain, chill about it.
But she does lose her shit like right away, and this is the
Does.
best part for me because if you haven't heard what she does, it's amazing. It's amazing in every way, and I love it. I'm going to tell you about it right now.
Go ahead.
So they're out in this field, right? And she sees all of a sudden this black figure appear. She describes it as being about 7 feet tall. And she says it has these big, round, red eyes that were red, not like the reflection of red, but like burning red, like fluorescent stoplights is what she compares it to in her testimony here. And so she starts screaming, which is totally understandable under the circumstances. And this kind of baffles her because she doesn't, the way she describes it is she doesn't fully understand why she reacted this way. But the way she reacts is she starts saying they've got no souls. And then she starts screaming it. It's like she goes from they've got no souls to they've got no souls. And she's just fucking losing it, right? Like just freaking out. And she's like running around. She's screaming. She's screaming that they're evil. They're going to kill us, amidst all of the talk of not having souls and shit. And it's just absolutely bonkers. And she's running around screaming this shit when all of a sudden she just like feels this like blow to her stomach, all like just out of nowhere. And she's suddenly winded and she's thrown back and she sits up with her head between her knees and she's sort of struggling to maintain consciousness and she can't see. So all of a sudden everything goes black at that point, which I guess calms her down a little bit, which, I guess it would under the circumstances. But I just needed people to know about that initial reaction because it's fucking fascinating as shit.
Mhm.
It is consistent with what I have seen from witnesses I have personally interviewed in other cases, not necessarily UFO related, but everything's kind of UFO related, really, if you think about it, like everything. But anyway, and it's the kind of detail that gets glossed over way too much when people talk about stories like this, because it is inconvenient to the narratives that we have built up about what UFOs are, who like inhabits them, and how they're supposed to behave, and what that represents. And as a result, I insist that it be brought up.
One of my witnesses that I've interviewed, so he has a story of his entire family was abducted by a UFO, right? By these beings, and the way that he tells it, he only tells it from his perspective. I've never spoken with his other family members, but it's himself, his mom, his sister, and his dad, right? Core family members, and they're driving down the road, and they get stopped by a craft, and they're approached by these beings. He also could not see, was a child, could not see, didn't really understand why he couldn't see, and the being had spoken to him and had asked if he would like to see, and if he would like to see, they would change their appearance to appear more, likable or friendly or whatever, and he didn't want to see, so he chose to continue that experience completely blind, just based off the noises. But yeah, you're absolutely, you're right. It is something that does happen.
Right. Well, just her reaction to it, screaming about them not having souls,
Yeah.
screaming that they're evil. Like it's easy for, I think, strict materialists to want to ignore that as, just another woman overreacting or whatever. But I think that does a disservice, a big disservice to
the way
her
that
and other
she-
witnesses like her.
Yeah, the way that she describes it is like, if you've ever ridden a roller coaster and you go up the hill and you start to go down the hill, you have this overwhelming, like, you cannot help it scream that happens. Like, it just comes out of you. And that's, to me, like I said, the way she describes it, it's like that. I mean, it's just, there's nothing you can do to stop it.
100%. And like, imagine too, because again, like you mentioned, these are all memories that have come back now, not through hypnotic regression,
Right.
but just as a result of things that have happened. Like initially, like I mentioned before, she doesn't remember any of this additional UFO encounter that happens during that missing time. It's only when her husband, ex-husband now, but whatever, husband at the time, brought up that they had seen a UFO, that she remembers that any of this happened. Like even the initial UFO sighting, like she had forgotten about all of that shit. And it's not, like I said, it's not until he brings it up again, basically telling their friends about some experience, like this experience that they had that eventually some of these memories start coming back. And then like other incidents involve like her going up to her girlfriend's house again, and that triggered more memories. And so it's really like going back to where this happened, like traveling along those same roads, going to the same friend's house, like that kind of stuff is triggering her to remember these incidents, which again is so much more compelling to me than regression hypnosis. Like this is how, I'm not a psychologist or anything, but this is how I would expect someone to authentically like recover memories, right?
Yes.
Would be by having things in their life remind them of this event that happened, and then have it all come rushing back. So,
This is trauma. This is how trauma works. And it's not necessarily the beings, the aliens wiped her brain. It's more likely she was having a really terrifying experience and her brain wiped her brain, and it not really wiped it, but it just buried it. And it's like, nope, you can't deal with that. You're not coping with that. And then as time has gone on and she has re-experienced, kind of similar situations in her life, then that trauma is resurfacing. It's just the way that it is. That's the way it works. So I'm just going to say, if this is a fake story, she's done her homework, and that's more than a lot of them have, right?
Oh, for sure. And so pretty much everything that we're talking about now and that we're going to talk about, these are all of the memories that have come back as a result of her just being reminded of this experience, exactly how you've described.
So, to kind of wrap up what was going on, like Tobias said, she has this blow. She becomes blind and she's, out of breath and in pain. Although she never saw anything or doesn't recall seeing anything physically hit her.
Right.
It seemed to be, she describes it more as like a force that went through her body. And she is hysterical, but as she's trying to kind of get her wits about herself, she remembers hearing her husband saying, like, let go of me. And then she hears another calm voice that's calmly saying, I mean you no harm. And she says, and my husband said, well, you just punched Kelly, so
Right.
it's not
Why
true.
did you hit Kelly if you don't mean us any harm?
Basically, and he's like, you fucking liar. But then what she remembers after that is a hand touching her shoulder. And then she remembers being inside of the car.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, of course I didn't read Tobias's 2005 book. That is where she has left it. I've not seen any updates about how that ended further or what more might have been there. However, there's more.
Okay. Well, yeah, totally. So, well, there are further details for sure.
Okay.
So,
Let's hear it.
like, yeah, the car, for instance. Let me find this part. Okay, so like she remembers coming to in the car, and then like her and her husband arguing about what they had seen, basically the entire way home. And she said, and this is an interesting detail, that she could smell vomit. Like there was the strong scent of vomit, but they didn't know where it was coming from. But it was in the car with them.
She said she threw up during the experience in the interview that I watched.
Okay, well, maybe that's where it came from, but at the time, she was not aware of that.
Right. At the time that they're arguing about it. Yeah.
Right, precisely. So she must have thrown up during the experience, but then when they're back in the car, she had no idea. So she was like, "Why does it smell like puke in here?" Well, now we know, right? So that I thought that was really interesting, and there's some more, like a little bit more communication that she talks about. So. Like, okay, so we already went over like her hearing her husband say something, and then this weird being say something back. Like she talks about throwing up during the experience, but she doesn't remember that later. Of course, we've already covered that. And then she says that she must have blacked out for a little while, but she comes to and remembers hearing someone talk about being a peaceful people. And she's, again, just goes straight to freaking the fuck out. Like, just 0 to fucking bonkers, which I get, because fuck these guys, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're running around blinding people, punching them in the stomach telekinetically or whatever, kidnapping them. Yeah, like, what the fuck? And so, like, she wakes up and she fucking flips out again. And she starts screaming like, "Don't believe them! They're going to steal your souls!" And she freely admits that, in hindsight, like when she says it now or at the time, that this interview took place, that it sounds ridiculous, but she insists like that's how hysterically terrified she was. Like she says, she was really, just really, really terrified. Like she'd never known terror like that. And another thing she remembers, and I'm going to preface this by saying that Kelly was, or is, I suppose, I don't know her now. At the time of this, she was a deeply religious woman. She was an ardent Christian. And so another detail that she remembers hearing is one of these beings say, "I wouldn't harm her. She's my daughter." Now, when she first saw the UFO on the way to like her friend's house, so like the sighting when it's over this field or in this field, right? She says the first thing she did was pray. And so she she's viewing this through a Christian lens somewhat. And so she interprets this being saying, "I wouldn't harm her. She's my daughter," as sarcasm, because she's looking at it from this Christian perspective where God is known as the father, and of course like mankind would be his children, and so that there's like a almost a demonic or similar sort of tilt to this,
Sure.
which I find really, really interesting personally. And who knows how much of that, of course, is just her perspective and bias. But it doesn't end there. So, she's screaming and going on about demons trying to steal people's souls and such. And the next thing she hears this being say is, would somebody do something about her? And then she feels this hand, touching her shoulder, she says, and it wasn't hard, but she described it as being quite gentle, but nonetheless, like she again, there's a recurring theme here. She once again loses it, and she's still sitting on the ground and she can't see anything, but she said that she made sure that her eyes were just fierce. Like even though she can't see anything, she's glaring. Like she's trying to make sure that they can tell that she is fucking pissed. And she starts screaming like, how dare you do this to these innocent people? And just chastising these beings, and screaming out, all of these things, telling them to go back from where they came and all of this stuff. And then she says the next thing she remembers is sitting in the car. And,
Yeah, I hadn't heard the bit about the daughter. I remember her talking about will somebody do something about her, because they were kind of laughing about it during the interview. Right. Because you're right. In hindsight, she is she kind of seems embarrassed by her her
Sure.
her fear.
Really, a lot of people are.
Yeah, and so but she's kind of like, yeah, someone had to do something about me. Is kind of the attitude she's given about it. But she didn't mention the daughter part. That's interesting, which could have, because these are again memories that she's kind of unlocking as she goes on with her life. In all fairness, could have been something that was added later because she remembered it later after the interview.
Sure. Well, when was the interview? Do you remember the date? Because this was 1994. So this would have been, let me see, this was March 21st, 1994. So the initial encounter, like we said, this part of it was early morning, probably August 8th, 1993. So let's see, August, September, October, November, December. Yes, I'm counting on my fingers right now. So this interview was 8 months after the experience.
Interesting. I'm trying to find when this was. It doesn't say when it was, but it was oh no, that was the date of her sighting. But it was a part of her. She went on this television show and shared it as a promotion for the book. So it's after her book came out, which was I think 96.
Okay, so yeah, like that, the interview you saw would have been a couple years after
97,
this.
Yeah.
So it's just as likely that there are details, because look, you and I both know that you tell these stories over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And there are details that you just kind of forget sometimes. Like you're telling a story, maybe you're nervous because you're on fucking TV or something, and you just skip a detail. So I think in all likelihood, it just skipped her. It just slipped her mind or something.
And this was a televised interview. They can edit shit out. Back in the 90s.
That's true.
It's not. Yeah. They might have been like, that's too weird for us, and
right.
Cut that part out. But anyway, either way, yeah, this is still it doesn't sway my personal opinion about what I think this case is. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. No, it's just one of those interesting details. And I mean, you are right though that we need to recognize those things when they happen, and work to reconcile them, because what we don't want to do is ignore discrepancies,
right?
If what they actually indicate is some kind of issue with the testimony.
Yes.
I don't think it does in this case, but you're right to point it out, and we're right to investigate that angle.
Because
So.
like with the Bigfoot body story, like obviously like that guy has changed his story. He shouldn't be changing his story within a month of that story coming.
Right.
You know what I mean? To that degree.
It's not a good look.
No,
Yeah.
it's not a good look. And that one's like obvious. That's a bad mark towards it. Whereas in this particular abduction case, it all kind of checks out because this is a retelling from a traumatic experience, which is different.
Yeah, agreed.
So anyway, going back to kind of what continued to happen going forward, Kelly obviously can't stop thinking about this. This has impacted her entire life, but not just that. I mean, she definitely talks about feeling crazy, like a lot of people do, having these really strange experiences. That's pretty normal. But one thing that she couldn't get out of her head is that she knows other people saw this happen. She knows there were other people there. And that was really, according to her, one of the biggest driving factor of trying to get her story kind of out there, at least figure out, who were these other people? How can I contact them? How can they validate me? Is what she's saying without saying it. And so, eventually through various means, she does get into contact with UFO investigators. She gets into contact with Bill Chalker, who would forward this case over to a local group called the Phenomena Research Australia, which we're going to go forward referring to it as PRA. We didn't even mention that. This is an Australian case, folks. For all the people that say this only happens in the States, it doesn't. Again.
Oh, yeah, shit. This was in Victoria, Australia. Sorry.
Yep. This was.
I just assumed everybody knew that, but no, why the hell would they?
Right. Again, we talked about how kind of, this case is kind of dead and buried, at this point, and it shouldn't be. But yeah, no, this is an Australian case. So the long and short of that bit is that this PRA group gets involved, and they are doing the damn thing, doing the work. They physically, they go out and investigate, they do field research on the site itself. There were some strange anomalies that they found there. I admittedly kind of skipped over that part in my brain. I can't remember. It was like markings on the ground, and there was like some substance, something that was there that shouldn't have been there.
Well, there were so I think right. No, I mean it's all good. Like the PRA's findings are, as far as I know, still unpublished.
They are.
So it's difficult to really find exactly what their findings were, frankly. But some of the things that they have shared would include like finding a triangular patch of dead grass at the site, various like EMF anomalies that reportedly affected electronics like in their car and things. So like that kind of stuff, sure.
So there's some air of something going on here.
Ooh, sorry, one other thing.
Sure.
Not just because this is another one of the reported PRA findings, and these are scant. So when we notice them, we should call them out because that's the thing I have an opinion about is PRA's hoarding of this fucking data. But no, they also claim to have noticed interesting changes in the soil chemistry. So like an above average sulfur content and the presence of pyrene, which occurs in coal tar.
Which shouldn't have been there. So I was kind of
Panic acid.
I was right. I just didn't have the words. So this is
That's
why,
all good.
like you say all the time, that's why there's two of us.
That's right.
So anyway, and we're gonna kind of shift gears a little bit into PRA because Kelly, she talks about all this in her book, but you have to understand that what she talks about, what we're going to kind of discuss going forward, this is information relayed to her from PRA, not because she has their reports, mind you, but because she is digging for answers. So like I said, kind of going the next stuff that we're going to talk about, which is what makes this case so fascinating, is what hasn't been said. Um, so then the PRA would actually be responsible for locating the two groups of witnesses. And I believe the two groups of witnesses ended up being two couples, male and female couples on both sides. But it gets difficult.
There were,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, like, oh, sorry. So some of the witnesses, there were, I think there were at least two other groups, but at least one of those was two women in a second vehicle. I don't know if they were a couple or not. Two women can be a couple.
Yeah, absolutely. But it gets tough because even Kelly herself has never talked to these witnesses, has never met them, right? Has never sat down and had a conversation with them. Again, it's all information coming, going to the PRA allegedly, and then coming to Kelly from the PRA. So there's a game of telephone going on here. But nonetheless, they would find these witnesses, and these witnesses would never, ever publicly come forward. In fact, as Kelly puts it, there was a lawsuit that had happened between the PRA and one of these couples because the man happened to have some really respectful job, and they had published something that had potentially identified them, personally, and they didn't want to get that out. So they had sued them. They had won, and this, that, and the other. So these people have tried really hard not to be known, and that's within their rights. We have no entitlement to know who the fuck they are. I love when people come forward, and I think people should come forward with their stories, but I'm not upset with them for not coming forward, is what I'm saying.
Sure.
So they end up, finding the PRA finds these other people, and then they all make their own drawings, and Kelly makes her own drawings, and they all end up drawing essentially what is the same thing. In Kelly's book, she has these drawings. You can see them. You can just Google them, and you can see comparisons between Kelly's drawing. I think it was Jane, and then Glinda were the two women, and their drawings of the creatures. And they are, it's almost the same fucking thing. For people that never, or, at least her and them for never to have met, it's really interesting how they could curate the story together. They draw the craft, which again ends up being almost exactly the same thing. And that was kind of what, because Kelly was initially even skeptical that these were the couple that was out there, because she was actively searching for these couples that were out there and would put out things publicly, like newspapers and stuff, trying to find these people. And so when she had seen these drawings, that was really impactful to her. She knew that this was genuine. They were there. Those people ended up having experiences of their own, which again have gone unpublished. We don't know the full extent to them. We just know what Kelly's been told. And some of those experiences involved them actually going onto the craft itself. And I'm not going to pretend to speak on what exactly that entailed. However, one of the women, they all ended up having like these strange marks. All the women had the triangle shaped mark, but one of the women had ligature marks that were so deep. They were very obvious from where she had been strapped down to an examination table, essentially. And there are photos of these ligature marks, and she does have them, and she publishes them in her $250 book.
Mm-hmm.
Not $250.
That's only because it's out of print.
Yeah, it's not her fault. Yeah. It's not her fault. Anyway, you can also find these online as well. Not as easily, but they're in her interviews and stuff. She shares them, freely. So it's out there. It's just another bit of physical evidence. All of the women ended up having the same gynecological problems that Kelly had, the mysterious bleeding and this, that, and the other. She thinks that these people have definitely, been found, and again, she's never met them, and that's kind of, she wants to, but they don't want to meet her. Right. And, and again, it's because they want to keep everything allegedly anonymous. I don't think the PRA went out of their way to make these people up. I think they do exist.
Yeah, I don't like to accuse people of wrongdoing without evidence. And so, I'm not going to say that they just made them up. It is troubling to me the level to which the PRA has obfuscated their findings. I think that there's a lot of information that they could release that they have not. Uh, there's supposedly this 300-page report that they have, and they could redact people's names.
Right.
They could redact private information and just release that shit, but they haven't, and I don't think they're gonna at this point. I mean, it's been 30 fucking years, so
Yeah.
it's
Which,
it's unfortunate.
it is. It is really unfortunate because it sounds like they have a lot there that could be. Well, I don't know. Is it useful? I mean, what does it change, right? Doesn't mean aliens are real. Doesn't all of a sudden prove it. But I think it is very important to be transparent in this field. Like Tobias said, you can redact names and things like that. But I think that them, being sued and it going through courts, I think kind of scared the group a little bit. And it's so stupid. But I think they feel like they can't afford a lawsuit, like that, where they were to potentially leak more information than they needed to. And that's sad because it's not hard to take your black Sharpie over people's names, but
True.
ask the government. Do it all the
Right.
time.
Nobody loves redacting information more than our own military intelligence.
Oh, they sure don't. So anyway, like I said, Kelly has never met these people. And this is kind of, I mean, I guess we're kind of clocking on the end of the experience as a whole. There was some drama because you've got people like Bill Chalker who thinks the story needs told, but it's hard to tell without the cooperation of the body who has all the evidence, which is the PRA.
Right. Well, and the PRA's official position is not that they're afraid to be sued. As recently as I don't know, a little less than a decade ago, their official position was that they don't want to publish their findings because at that point, Kelly Cahill is long gone. Like, she did the UFO circuit for a few years, but she was done before the 21st century. Like by the end of the 90s, she's off of the UFO circuit. And so what the PRA was claiming, again, as recently as I think 2016-ish, was that they didn't want to make it about themselves. So what they were saying was, look, if we publish this 300-page report that we have detailing this investigation, everything that went into it, our findings, all this stuff, then since Kelly has removed herself from the UFO scene, all of the questions are going to come to us. And that's not right. And, I'll tell you what's not right about that is, in my opinion, how flimsy of an excuse it is. I mean, really, the idea that the reason the PRA just couldn't possibly release this report because, oh gosh, we just don't want all that attention. No, man, come on, eat shit. Like, you can't kid a kidder, all right? Like, that is some weak fucking sauce. That is the weakest of sauces. That is the fucking ketchup and water of fucking marinara sauces, my friend, is how weak that shit is. Like, I don't believe for a second that the reason this hasn't been released is really because, oh, we just don't want the attention. We don't want to make it about ourselves. Like, that's ridiculous. I'll tell you, the number one reason I think, having been in this field really actively for 15 years at this point, over 15 years, actually almost 20, is because people absolutely want to make it about themselves, and they want this, they want to own this information. And so long as that report is held by PRA, they are the owners of this fucking story. They're the only ones who have it. And that's, I think, a much likelier reason for them not turning it over, which is just gross. Like, MUFON does the same fucking thing. Drives me crazy. Yeah. Drives me fucking crazy because they want to own these experiences. They want to own these stories from a scientific standpoint. They want to own this data rather than doing the right thing, the scientific thing, which would be opening it to everybody, just turning it loose and saying, hey, here's all the data we have. Hope it helps. Like, that's what somebody who's actually interested in discovery does. The people who hoard it are the little shits who want to make it about themselves and who will do anything to make sure that they're the gatekeepers of this fucking experience. And I fucking hate that shit. Hate it.
And I'd be lying if I told you guys I don't do any of this for the attention. Like, I love that shit. I love attention. I want the fullest room at the convention. Okay, I want every motherfucker there to come see me and be there just to see me, because that makes me feel good, and I'm not too proud to admit that. However, you know what gets you a lot of attention? Conducting breakthrough research and showing people and proving people that you did.
It's true. People will ask me like, hey, do you have any more information on this, like this case you covered or like this experience you investigated? And I'll be like, actually, no. I put literally everything that I can share in the article I wrote about it or the book I wrote about it or whatever, because I don't believe in holding that shit back. I believe in anonymity upon request and protecting people's identities if they so choose. That's fine.
Right.
I will 100% do that. Always, always, always. But what I will not do is hold back on the rest of the details. So if you read a report that I have published anywhere, you've got all of the information right there. There's nothing left for me to give that I can ethically give.
Yeah.
And that's how people should fucking be.
Yeah, because eventually you're going to come across something, and it's going to be the Holy Grail. And if you don't put it out there, then someone else might claim it. You can't have them claiming your fucking credit. Get it out there, break that story, get it out there first. Just saying.
Yeah, for real.
I'm just saying. Like I said, if you like attention, you're doing it wrong, because you don't want negative attention. You want the good stuff. You want the compliments. You want to be doted on. Okay, well then get that shit out there and be like, look, we did the thing. We did the good thing. Anyway, but no, I agree. I don't know. I think probably the lawsuit does have something to do with it. But I don't know. I didn't dig too much into that because I am damn good at my job, and if I really wanted to, it sounds like I probably could find out who these people are. And I don't know if I can keep that secret. Just gonna be honest. Well, I don't know if Australian courts are like ours. All of our court records are public. It's public information. You can file a FOIA for whatever you want to. I don't know if they have something like that in Australia. So maybe not. Maybe you can't find it. Maybe it's tough. But I'd imagine if you just look for that case, you'd find it eventually.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Australia didn't. I mean, the UK does. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I would expect them to, but I really don't
know. Yep, not Australian. Never been there. Right? Would love to go one day, but
it's just so far away.
It is so far away. Like I can't just drive there. You gotta fucking take a plane or a boat.
You gotta take a plane, and it's on the literal opposite side of the fucking world. Like it is as far away from us as anything possibly could be, and honestly, still be on the planet.
They're doing pretty good, right? Don't let us Americans come in there and fuck shit up for them. Like they're doing all right. Like
now I'm gonna tell me I can't. I'm gonna fuck all your shit up, Australia. Here I come. Try and stop me.
You just want to go fist fight a kangaroo. I know you do. I
would hug a kangaroo.
I know, and
then we would become best friends, and we would hug. And then we would become best friends, and then we would go on adventures.
Would you hang out in its pouch? Like get in its pouch and it would hop and take you places?
If it was big enough?
Yeah.
Obviously, yes, I would.
It's probably...
That would be amazing.
Really comfortable, actually. It's like a hammock, right? With fur.
It'd be like a sleeping bag, yeah.
Yeah. Cover your whole body. Real toasty.
Oh, hell yeah. I could sleep in there. Mm. Oh, man. I'd feel so safe. Yeah, totally. Let's do it.
Any danger? You just hide. And wait.
Yeah, just... curl up in there, and then the kangaroo can box the shit out of whatever the danger is. Meanwhile, I'm sleeping in their little tummy bag, just safe as can be. That sounds great.
Australians hate them though. They hate their kangaroos, and it's like, why? You just got to make one your buddy. It is.
Right.
It is
just do the thing I said, where you hug it, and then you're best friends.
That's all they want.
Meanwhile, right? If you try to hug a kangaroo, it probably just like kicks your dick right off. Yeah.
They are notorious for
Immediately.
drowning dogs, so that's not good.
What?
Yeah,
Ah,
they do. It's really terrible.
boo.
It's really terrible.
Boo, kangaroos.
And
Boo.
it's like, you fucking piece of shit. But like, at the same time, it's like I can't even
Are you
be
sure it's not
mad
a
at
bunyip?
him.
Could it be a bunyip that's drowning all the dogs?
It could be.
That's Australian.
And blaming the kangaroos.
Right? Fucking dastardly bunyips. Drowning all our dogs, blaming the innocent kangaroo. That's probably who gave all the koalas chlamydia.
The bunyip? Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
The bunyip is a dirty, dirty whore. That's for
Fucking
sure.
dirty ass bunyip.
Slutty bunyip.
Well, we don't need to slut shame the bunyip.
Well,
We
true.
don't do that.
That's true. That's fair. Those koalas knew what they were getting into. Come on.
Well, they might not have. I'm just saying whether the sexual proclivities of the bunyip are irrelevant to any of its other deeds. So
You're
the
right.
fact that it likes to have lots of sex is fine. But the fact that it has lots of sex to spread chlamydia deliberately to koalas is not fine. So it's the deliberately spreading of sexually transmitted disease that's bad, and not the sex.
I mean, admittedly, I'm right now very jealous that the bunyip's getting laid more than I am. So
Just tons. Every koala in Australia, I think,
yeah,
or like most of them.
lucky. Anyway, what is this?
I have no idea.
It's
I
Wednesday.
don't know what
That's
happened.
what it is.
I just blacked out for a second. What happened?
I don't even remember what we were talking about. Something about the PRA and them withholding their information. Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's Australia's
Yeah.
MUFON. I mean, that's that's it.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
that's what it sounds like.
and we know what they do here, and that maybe we'll do an episode because we talk about MUFON having some not great practices. But we've never like gone into detail about it. Maybe we'll do that one of these times and
You could.
get
You have to
everybody
make sure to.
on
I'm
board.
not looking to get sued, so.
Well, that's true. So it's hard to do. But I mean, we can. We did it with David Politis.
Yeah.
I've done it with the Warrens. I haven't been sued yet. So
You just have to be factual. As long as as long as what you are saying is a fact, no one can sue you.
exactly.
So.
Exactly. So but anyway, let's let's kind of shift a little bit. Let's talk about, what we think about this one. This is a great. I mean, this is a really great. I'm not going to say story. This is a great encounter. I mean, I agree. This should be a classic in ufology. We should be looking to this as kind of one of the litmuses for abduction stories,
Sure.
because I 100% buy into this story. There's nothing about it to me that is suspicious or strange at all. Really, I think it all checks out. I think her actions match, kind of her stories. Like I said, listen to her talk. Really go listen to her interview. And I've said a lot of the same shit that she said, and I can relate to her in that sense that, like, yeah, you feel crazy. You do. And she doesn't go on to make a bunch of money off of this. Yes, her book is very expensive, but why is it? Because it's out of print. She's not selling it anymore.
Right.
She's not out here doing interviews. She's not out here doing the convention circuit. So she didn't do it for money. I believe that her name isn't even actually Kelly Cahill. I believe that was a pseudonym that she went by.
Right.
And I just think, like I said, I love this. I think it's genuine. Tobias.
Yeah, I mean it's a really interesting case, and I think any of the relatively minor discrepancies that you see in there can be explained. For instance, like when it comes to the missing time aspect of the story. Now, reportedly, her husband thought that the reason that they arrived home so late was because that they had left later, but she was sure that they had left earlier. And I think that the details of the case we have sort of support her side more. And so like that discrepancy to me is not a sort of glaring error in her testimony or anything. It just sounds like what really happens when two people are talking about any event, right? Like you're going to have, especially like what time something fucking happened or
Yeah.
when you left or,
Right.
whatever. Like that shit is so hard for people to keep track of. That doesn't really bother me, especially when you look at the weight of the rest of her testimony. And then there are like little additional details in the PRA findings that we do have that are especially interesting too. Like this one where they thought that the focus of the entire encounter was not Kelly, but rather
Yeah.
two other women in a second vehicle.
Mhm.
Like who would make up a story that they weren't even the star of?
Right.
You know what I mean? Where they weren't even the main character, they were just a side character in somebody else's story. Like nobody makes that up, right? Like that's crazy. So it's so interesting to me that her and the other car that wasn't these two women, like so her husband and this other car, they weren't even the main abductees. They just were in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
And really the focus was on these other people. It's little details like that that I think really sell the credibility of this story, just because of how unlikely, in my opinion, it is for somebody to fabricate that level of detail in their story.
Yeah. Well, I agree with that. And then, even like the dialogue and stuff she mentions of like, oh, will somebody do something about her? Yada, yada, yada. I mean, it just kind of feeds into that she's not the main focus. They're just trying to kind
Yeah.
of get her to shut the fuck up so they can do what they came to do. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that is, and that's not information that necessarily came from the PRA to be published again. That's information they gave to Kelly,
Right.
that she goes on to talk about. Yeah, I agree. I think that, yeah, and like as far as like the time and, this, that, and the other, I mean, did they lose an hour in time? Did they not? Who knows? Especially when we start getting to like deep cuts about how, some people think these things can manipulate time for us. And did
Mhm.
they, didn't they? Does it fucking matter? Does it matter if it happens, in the middle of the morning or the middle of the night? Not really. No, it doesn't.
Right.
But I just think that there's so much to it that it just checks all the boxes.
Boxes checked.
It scratches the itch.
Itches scratched.
It's
Mission accomplished.
fucks the bunyip. It's
Bunyips have been fucked, people. You heard it here first.
that's what I think. Yeah. Any final thoughts on on this case?
Sure. Yeah, I think that, well, as we just discussed, this is a compelling case. And it's compelling for all of those little details that I think put the humanity of the experience at the forefront. So everything that Kelly shares is so raw and so human. And then the way that she describes it, again, is so raw and so human that I just find that very compelling. I find it credible the way that it's expressed. The narrative of this experience is fascinating to me. Now, I don't know if this really happened or not, but at the end of the day, I would fall more on the side of saying there's no strong evidence to point that this is a hoax, over quibbling about how much evidence we have that it actually happened. I think that
Yeah.
Kelly's testimony is fascinating enough. What little we do know about the PRA's findings is interesting enough for me to say I think the likelihood of something unexplained or something that this woman can't explain having happened to her is fairly high.
Yeah.
And my frustration, of course, is in the PRA's reluctance to release their report. And I think that points to a major issue in not just ufology, but every aspect of the paranormal, where people have this predilection for hoarding data. They want to be the gatekeepers of other people's experiences.
Yeah.
And I find that so gross.
Yeah.
Just so fucking nerdy and shitty and gross. Like if you had cool experiences of your own, you wouldn't need to like try to hoard somebody else's, you fucking dork.
Yep.
So just knock it off, like just be a more interesting person, and maybe you wouldn't feel like you have to do that. But yeah, it is such a fucking thorn in my paw, like I just hate it so much. That anytime I see it happening again, I get all riled up, just like it was the first time, and it happens so often that I'm just constantly angry about it. But it's an important lesson, like obviously do everything you can in service of the experiencers. If they want to be anonymous, leave them anonymous, protect them. But you don't have to do that at the cost of sharing your fucking findings or sharing data that could be useful to this field. And anybody who says that you do, I think, is being disingenuous.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big red flag. So, just be cool. Share your data. It's that simple. We're all in this together.
Right, we're supposed to be. I mean, you guys saw it. We did the when we did the Jack Overby stuff, I fucking couldn't wait to share that with everybody. I just can't
Yeah.
imagine, sitting on the information. And while there are aspects of that situation, not just that situation, but of that story that even I don't know, because Lance is the keeper of that information. It's to protect Jack, not to withhold information to extend the mystery or anything like that. It's just stuff that isn't relevant to the story that we can protect. And we have to kind of, maybe think that through a little bit. But it didn't make it so that we didn't want to talk about the story as a whole. You could still share the entire story without sharing those personal details and ruining someone's life or whatever they think is going to happen.
Right.
Just saying. I mean, that's just the way that is. So, no, I agree with you. It makes me very angry. These stories, they're not yours. They're not mine. You know what happened when I was a young researcher and I got into these topics and started researching Mothman really heavily, and I found out about TV's Tobias Wayland. You know what I did? I wasn't like, man, that fucking guy, he's covering my Mothman. I didn't do that. I said, perfect. He lives in another state, away from all the West Virginia stuff, somewhere else where something else is happening. We should probably work together.
Yeah.
Because that's the way it should be. Just saying. Anyway, I'm gonna try to find Kelly's book and get it. I'm gonna try to post it on the Patreon. I'm not promising anything, but I think that there is probably a PDF copy somewhere, and I think that'd be really neat for you guys to be able to check out on your own in Kelly's own words. And, just as a little treat, right? A little treat for yourself. I'm not promising a timeline. Like I said, I got to find it first, and it's tough, but I'll do my due diligence. So if you want to check that out, I'll let you guys know here, obviously, when it is posted. I don't want you to throw money at me for a fake promise, because I'm not a grifter. So I'm not showing Bigfoot bodies at state fairs. Just saying.
What?
Yep, not me. Not my style. Nope. I actually like to produce my, what I promise. So. All right, guys. Well, with that being said, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.